right, pressing on. So now we're going to look at solving equations with fraction coefficients. So if there are fractional coefficients, then multiply the entire equation by the least common multiple of the denominators. So for example, let's say we needed to solve for x with this equation. So here in this equation, everything is a fraction. So what's kind of maybe the best way to deal with this? So one way to deal with this is to first find the least common multiples between the different denominators. So we have denominators 18, 6, and 4. So, here we've got multiples of 18. So 18, 36, 54, 72, and so on. Here we've got multiples of 6, and here we've got multiples of 4. So you'll see that like between 6 and 4, they have a common multiple of 12, okay? But even though 6 and 4 have a common multiple of 12, that's not a multiple of 18, all right? But what you will notice is that the number 36 is a common multiple of all three denominators. So 36 is going to be the least common multiple. We could possibly have 18 be the least common multiple, but the problem is that we have 18 here and 18 here, but we don't have 18 as a multiple of 4. So that's not going to work either. So 36 is our least common multiple of all three denominators. So the least common multiple of 18, 6, and 4 is 36. Now multiply the entire equation by 36 and then solve for x. Okay. And so another way to find the least common multiple is to use factor trees. Okay, so this isn't going to be practical most of the time. Okay, this is just a simple example to kind of show you what we mean by least common multiple. But doing this is going to take way too much time in a lot of cases. So another way is to use factor trees for each denominator. And least common multiple will have every different prime factor found in the factor tree. And the least common multiple will also have the most repetitions of each unique factor across all factor trees. Okay, we've done this before, but for the sake of argument, let's do this again. So 18 is 2 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So 18 is 2 times 3 times 3. 6 is just 2 times 3. And 4 is just 2 times 2. All right. Now, the least common multiple is going to have every single unique factor that we see. So what do we mean by unique factor? So let's look at 2. We've got 2's. Now, what's the most number of 2's that we have in all of the factor trees? The most number of 2's that we've got is we've got 2 of them here. So our least common multiple is going to have 2 2's. Now let's look at the next unique factor across all of the factor trees. And so we've got 3. Now, what's the most number of 3's that we've got across all factor trees? Well, we've got 2 of them. And that's it. We're all out of unique factors. We don't have another factor of 5 somewhere, or 7 or 11. Okay, this is it. So our least common multiple is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 9 is 36. So by following this simple procedure, we're able to get the least common multiple of 36, which is the same thing that we did up above. Okay, so using this procedure, we are going to multiply our original equation by 36. So we've got 1 over 18x plus 5/6. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. I'm going to multiply that by 36 as well. Okay. So let's write this out. We've got 36 times 1/18 x plus 36 times 5/6. So I'm applying the distributive property here. And then we've got 3/4 times 36. All right. Now what you'll notice here is that 36 is in the numerator on all three of these, and we want to be able to cross out common factors. Okay. But when we cross out common factors, look at this denominator of 18. And so when we look at our least common multiple, we have 18 in it. So we have 2 times 3 times 9. Or I'm sorry, 2 times 3 times 3. That's 18. So what do we have left? We have a 2 left. So 18 will go into 36 2 times. So that leaves us with 2x. All right, next we have, in our denominator, we have 6. So here is 6. What's going to be left after we divide 6 into 36? We'll have 6. And 6 times 5 is 30. And now with this denominator, we've got a denominator of 4. And once we look at, we take 4 out of our least common multiple, what do we have left? 9. So 4 goes into 36 9 times. And 9 times 3 is 27. So we started with this fractional equation. We multiplied the entire equation by the least common multiple. And now we have an equation that's going to be easier to work with. I mean, true, we had to kind of go through this initial work, but now this is going to be working without fractions, okay, or fewer fractions. So let's go ahead and work this out. So that will add up to 0. And 27 minus 30 is going to be minus 3. Divide both sides by 2. And x is equal to minus 3/2. Sorry, this thing just opened up. Let me clear that out. Okay. So this is an example of how we can solve equations with fractional coefficients. We can just multiply the whole equation by the least common multiple. So in this example, I'm going to give another example of how to find the least common multiple. All right, and I think you'll see kind of the advantage of this new method that I'm showing you as far as finding the least common multiples. So let's look at the factor tree for 20. All right, so 20 is 2 times 2 times 5. Now with 14, that's 2 times 7. And 15 is 3 times 5. All right, now the least common multiple is going to be each common factor, or I'm sorry, each unique factor that was found across all trees and the most num the high let's see the highest frequency that each unique factor occurred. So let's see, our first unique factor is 2. So 2 occurred in 2 factor trees, and the most times it occurred was twice. So our least common multiple is going to have 2 twice. Okay, the next factor, unique factor that popped up was a 3. And the most times it occurred was once. Now, the next unique factor that occurred was 5. And the most times that a 5 occurred in any one factor tree was once. And then finally, the last unique factor was a 7, and a 7 occurred only once. So our least common multiple is going to be 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7, which is 420. So if you were to do this the other way, where you're making a list of multiples like this, okay, in order to find the least common multiple, think about it. So if you started with 20, then you would just keep adding 20. Of course, I'm going fast. And we know it's 420, but you might actually have to keep going because you don't know what it's going to be. Okay, so you write all those down. And now you have to do the same thing with 14. All right, and actually I would need a calculator to keep doing multiples of 14. And then you need to do 15. Okay, and so on. And it's like you're not going to see a least common multiple until this comes out to 420, and you keep going. And of course, 14, you're not going to see a least common multiple until you get to 420, and you kept going. All right. So that's going to be a really long and laborious process. I think, I'm making my case that this process is much simpler. It's new, but it's simpler. Okay. And it's easier. So now that you've kind of seen this process and I've given you some justification for it, try out this think, pair, share, where you're trying to eliminate the denominators in all of these fractions by finding the least common multiple. And after you find the least common multiple, you should solve for x, and x should be equal to negative 75/95/91. Sorry. So give that a try.